So we had some technical difficulties, but it looks like we're back now, chat. All right. So what I was ranting about. And hey, that gave me a little bit of time to think about things, right? Calm down a little bit after this game. I'm lying. I feel the exact same that I did just a few minutes ago. All right. So let me go ahead and say this. So I am not a basketball savant. Okay. I don't claim to be. I don't get on here and act like that's what I am. I am a fan just like you. I know the San Antonio Spurs. I do believe in what I say, right? I don't just say things just for the sake of saying it. I'm not someone that's just going to be a contrarian, just be a contrarian. My biases don't come from nowhere, right? So let me go ahead and say this. If anybody watched this game and you came out of it and you said that this is Jeremy Sohan's fault, I honestly question your ability to assess any game. I mean, I don't really know where that would be coming from other than your own personal bias. I don't know. You can say that I'm biased. Obviously, I have all the love in the world for Sohan. I think that he's very important for what the Spurs will need in the future, right? I think every championship caliber team, needs somebody like Sohan. But I'm not one that usually say you don't know ball, but I honestly don't think you know ball. Who said it was Sohan's fault? Before we got on, or the last live stream we were on, people were saying that there's quite a few people saying that it's Sohan's fault. I don't know what the heck. So there is one person I blame for this, but I'm also going to be very charitable. And that person is Mitch Johnson. But at the same time, I'm going to be very charitable. All right. And it's not, it actually comes down to, surprise, surprise, him taking Sohan out of the game at the end. But like I said, it could very well have been minutes restriction. If it was minutes restriction, I guess I get it a little bit more. So this is what we'll do. All right, we'll go over the game. We'll talk about today's sponsor, BetUS, as always. And then I'll take a look at what you guys have to say about it overall and just see what the main consensus is amongst Spurs Nation here. So first and foremost, the Spurs played with effort, right? So that's not something that we should be worried about. That's not something that that we were lacking. The Spurs definitely played with a lot of effort, and we also were expecting from last game that Denver Nuggets would come in hot, right? That they would come in, play much better than they did previously, which they did. And I thought that the Spurs, while they started a little slow, so did the Denver Nuggets, and I thought that our defense was really good. And, after the first half, I was feeling pretty great, man. And then I felt even greater after the third quarter because the Spurs did not let up whatsoever. I had nearly 40 points in the third. And going into the fourth, that's when things got a little wacky, okay? That's when things got a little strange. And this is where my charitability comes in because I was definitely thinking, Mitch Johnson, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we restricting Sohan's ability to make plays in the fourth quarter in overtime? And people can sit back and say, well, Clan, he only had 5 points. And I understand that. But at the same time, his defense was incredible. Watch the last play of the fourth quarter to lead into overtime. It was absolutely great. Him and Wemby, they could not. I don't know how many screens the Nuggets attempted to set, but they were just perfect. Those two, they were just perfect. So I thought defensively it was a masterclass between those two, and yeah, it really does show that in the future that's something that we can look forward to. So their defense was great in that last play, and I was just sitting back like, all right, let's go ahead and finish this game strong, go into overtime, play Sohan, and let this thing roll. But that is not what happened, right? So when I say things got wacky, this is why I didn't really like. And I'll go through every single player, obviously, like we always do. But I want to just bring up what I didn't like. And it really did come down to Sohan. So Sohan entered the game, 8 minutes and 21 seconds on the clock. And he missed a three. Okay, yeah, he missed a three. But then the next play, he hit a three. Then he got a defensive rebound. And then he had an offensive rebound. and which led to a Jeremy Sohan dunk. And then with a minute left in the game, and that was 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So that was clutch right there. That dunk that he had was very clutch. And after that, we put Keldon Johnson in. I really hated that. I hated it so much. I did not quite understand why we did that. As soon as Keldon got in, which we say this all the time, he's not the best finisher in the world. Last game, it made sense. Sohan was hurt, and he was on somewhat of a hot streak, right? In this game, at the end of the fourth, immediately when he got in the game, he took a ill-advised shot and got blocked, right? Now, to be fair, Wemby also got blocked on a shot. Peyton Watson got him. But yeah, Keldon came into the game, and possession in which he had it, he got blocked by Russell Westbrook. And that was 46 seconds left on the clock. And then after we get on the defensive end, obviously Mitch Johnson did the right thing and put Jeremy Sohan in with the last 14 seconds on the clock. Like I said, Jeremy Sohan and Wemby did a phenomenal job of forcing a deep mid-range shot from Nikola Jokic. And yeah, then that was leading in overtime. And I felt good. And it even ended with a Sohan rebound. I felt good. I said, okay, we're gonna make good enough. I'm not sitting here waiting for Sohan to give us 50 points, right? I don't do that. But I think that our defense is going to be solid enough where we can make this thing work. So you want to know how many minutes Sohan got in overtime? None. Absolutely none. He got none. 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 He got no minutes. Now, like I said, this is where the charitability comes in. He's literally coming off an injury, okay? So this could very well just be that he's coming off the injury. You didn't want to play him. And like we literally could not play him, right? And maybe that's why, maybe near the end of the fourth, our boy Mitch Johnson was just kind of like, oh, crap. Like, we're getting close to that minutes restriction. I'll play him as much as I can, but this might be the last time we get to see him. So that could very well be it. That's probably what happened. But just watching the game from, a fan standpoint, I was very frustrated because I'm okay with losing games. Like, even this game, I knew it was going to be a tough one to win. I'm all right with losing some games, right? It's a super young team. We're pretty inexperienced still, even with a couple veterans that we added. But it's okay. Like, I don't expect us to win all of them. I don't expect us to be perfect. But gosh, man, when we have the opportunity to put the best possible lineup out there at any given time in the fourth and overtime, it just frustrates me when we don't do it. But like I said, it could very well just be the minutes restriction because we are very accustomed to Sohan getting the most minutes at anybody on the team because of his consistency defensively. That's what we can expect. But, obviously out of the starters, he got the least amount of minutes, right? So that's probably what it was. So I'm trying not to be like super angry, but it does frustrate me, man. I like this game. You go into overtime, you fight the entire game. I just wish we could just finish it off strong. And if they were going to keep him at 26 minutes all along, I wish they would have managed that a little bit better. Where when we get into overtime, now we can't play him. You know what I mean? Nah, bro, we had this game, just threw it out. Too many mistakes and dumb decisions. Anyways. So that's what really frustrated me. That's my one, negative takeaway out of it. But like I said, that I usually don't get too upset after games, but one like this where you fought so hard and you go into overtime and you just don't play the best possible lineup out there, it frustrates me. And I wished if they were going to keep him at 26, I wish that they would have managed that a little bit better, right? And at the end of the day, you can say that Sohan is this, Sohan is that. As far as everyone on the team, only 2 people on the team had a positive plus minus, and that was Sohan and that was Trey Jones. So there's that. Everyone else was in the negatives. Vic was 0 because even if he had a bad game, he's great. Vic was 0. But Sohan +3, and you can see Trey Jones +1. Those are the only 2. Keldon -14. Devin Vassell -12. By the way, Devin Vassell, I do like his aggression. So all the positives from this game, okay, that's my one negative. I didn't like that Mitch Johnson did that, but at the same time, minutes restriction. I know he's coming off an injury. I won't trip about it too much. Also, there is another negative, which, is it a negative? But, yeah, kind of, yeah. Zach Collins, 10 minutes felt like an hour. It felt like an hour. It was pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. It was worse than last game. It was pretty bad. But then again, he can only do so much at his size against Nikola Jokic, And it's not like Bassey came in and did any better. He was actually worse. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Collins did have that one good pass. Who did he pass it to? Hold on. Don't tell me. Was it Keldon? No. Was it Keldon? It was a really nice pass. Who was that pass to, guys? Can you tell me? Collins is a really good passer for a big. You guys remember? Chris Paul? I don't remember. Steven says it's Chris Paul. Maybe it was Chris Paul. I don't recall. YouTube people, if you're watching this in the future, who did he pass it to? It was really sweet. He said Chris Paul. Okay. Might have been. Okay. I don't remember either. It was pretty, though. I do remember it. Anyways. So those are kind of my 2 negatives there. Now, as far as positives, I think Devin Vassell's back. I think he got his mojo back. Now, while his shooting hasn't been as good as what we're accustomed to, his outside shooting, the aggression is undoubtedly there, right? 20 field goal attempts. Like I said, that sweet spot for me is 16. If he can get to that 16, I think that he's having a pretty decent game, or at least an impactful game in a way. So I think that his aggression is definitely back. Overall, I mean, he didn't have the best game in the world, but who did, right? Chris Paul, offensively, it continues. His shooting is pretty terrible, but assist-wise, he's still finding the open guy and doing work there. Wish we would have saw a little bit more Steph Castle, but from what we saw, he was fine. 4 for 10, 40% isn't the best in the world, but took pretty smart shots, right? Had 3 assists, 1 rebound. He only played 16 minutes, so there's that. Maybe the addition of Trey Jones had kind of hurt his minutes a little bit too, but I don't know. Let's see. Any other positives here? I think that's about all I have for positives. I think that it's very clear what Wemby can work on in the offseason. So I think that is a positive. I know it's going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but, I do think that, strength is very obvious, right? Because as soon as he puts that ball down at all, they are swiping at it. And the last thing you want is that to be a blueprint on how to stop Victor Wembanyama. He was losing the ball like crazy when it was anywhere close to on the court, which if you're a big, you don't want it close down to the court anyways. But Vic is a different type of specimen, right? He can do so many different things. So that ball is going to be closer to the floor at times. And you want to have that strength to be able to hold on to it. But it seems like, man, it's just a little bit of inconvenience. That ball is gone. So something clear for him to work on. And I think we'll be fine there. But yeah, those are kind of my overall takeaways for the game. 12 3-point shots from Vic opposed to his 6 last game. I thought his last game was a little bit more balanced, way more balanced, right? It was way more balanced than this one. But at the same time, I did see that he was trying to take advantage of his matchups, and they were fairly open 3-point shots, right? Not too crazy there. But lots of things could have went better. The Spurs could have played better overall, but my main negative takeaway was the lineups at the end of the game. And if that came down to it's the minutes restriction, I know there's only so much you can do, but good God, we should have managed that a little bit better, because it was a close game going into the fourth. I just wish we could have found a way to manage that just in case, we needed more of them. Because and it's so funny because anyone that says it's Sohan's fault, I think it was actually the complete opposite, right? I think it was the absolute complete opposite of what hurt the Spurs in this game. It was the lack thereof, Sohan. Nuggets were going to come back and play harder. They were going to come and play smarter, which they did. And I will say this too. Here's another positive. I think the Spurs were prepared for it, right? That was one thing I was slightly afraid of, that after beating them at Denver, that we would be, a little full of ourselves or take the foot off the acceleration, take the hand off the throttle. But that is not necessarily the case. I thought that the Spurs still played with about the same amount of intensity they did last game. Just a lot of weird decision making, mistakes, as some people in the chat have mentioned, and ending horrifically because I don't think the Spurs could play Sohan because of the minutes restriction. Very ugly. I really hated that. You didn't get anything out of, which this is like the case 90% of the time. You didn't get much out of playing Keldon at the end of these games. You just don't get that much out of it. Anyways. Lack of execution and turnovers. Sure. That too. It was a sloppy game overall. I mean, the team as a whole shot 39%. And from 3, you shot 27%. But yet and still, you were in this game. This is not... The Spurs didn't actually lose by 10. Like, you were in this game. You just didn't have your best possible lineup you could have at the end. How much did Jokic have? Jokic had 46 points. He had 41 last game. Yeah, you just can't stop him, man. You just can't stop him. We desperately need a backup center for Wemby. Wemby sit, and then it's over. It's over. Lack of a second option, that too. All right, so you guys go ahead and leave in the comments what you thought about this game. And that goes for the YouTube people and the chat. So you guys go ahead and leave that. And as you're doing that, really quick, I do want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, BetUS. If you guys are interested at all, head on over to BetUS and bet on some stuff, man. So if you go over here, you go to basketball, there's some really good stuff there. You have NBA and CAA, so you can do individual NBA games. Obviously, you can do the ones that's pretty fun, like NBA championship winner. Don't bet on the Spurs. I don't think that would be a good idea. But all you would do is just click on the money line here. It'll come up and say, what's the risk? So you just say you want to put $5 or something. You think the Denver Nuggets do it $5. That'll give you $80 right there if they were to win the championship. So, and then you just place your bet. You just click that, place your bet, and you are good to go. So use promo code YouTube150. You'll receive 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your second and third deposit. Like I said, that's YouTube150. Just use promo code YouTube150. All right. Good stuff. This game isn't good stuff, but BetUS is good stuff. All right, let's see. All right, let me look at the chat. Jokic's field goal attempts is ridiculous. He took the same amount last game as well. Easy dub. At least we got the Bulls next. Easy dub. Okay. Jokic gets a whistle if you breathe on him wrong. That's even more reason why you desperately need a backup center, right? And this isn't something that the Spurs can fix right now. I know that a lot of people are like, I want to see Bassey over Collins. And I'm with you, right? Like I at the moment, I liked Bassey because of the amount of energy he brought over Collins, because Collins just seemed like his demeanor, right? His whole aura was just off. It's like, what's going on, bro? But since then, I feel like he's chilled out. He seems like he's better now, and he's been getting minutes. I don't want to say because of it, but it could just be a coincidence. And then when it comes to Bassey, he isn't. Oh man, you guys want to know a hard truth? At least what I think. I don't think Bassey's here for the long haul. I think Bassey is here right now, but I don't think he's here, say, 2 seasons from now. I could be wrong, but That's just the vibe I get. I don't even know about Mamu as far as staying here, right? The only people right now that I'm confident will stay with the team, Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul if they want to. But Sohan, Wemby, Vassell if you don't trade him for Fox. So Vassell, Julian, Champagny. I don't see any reason to trade Julian, especially with his contract and his productivity. I think that he is outplaying his very minimal contract. And I could possibly see Keldon being here, but I think Keldon will get traded. But in the next couple of years, it's not that many. So maybe Castle, Trey Jones, Champagny, and this starting lineup, if Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul want to stay. That's it. That's kind of it, Sohan is not untouchable. I think that's a silly thing to say. I think Sohan is pretty untouchable. Not on the same level as Victor, right? Victor is like there's no phone call at all that can happen. Sohan, I just don't think you're going to get them to do that. Like I said, I think the Spurs do value what Sohan brings. Sohan isn't someone that you can expect to give you 50 points a game, 30 points a game or whatnot. Even some of the language that Sohan has used in his press conferences, it sounds like he's here for the long haul, right? Like the Spurs have had that conversation with him, that he's here for the long haul. He's talked about, draft and stuff like that, going forward. So, I don't see him being moved. Shoot, even when the Spurs drafted Victor Wembanyama, they had Sohan, the one, go out there and interview him and introduce him to the team and everything. I don't see Sohan going anywhere. Sohan is pretty untouchable, yeah. I don't see a reason to trade Sohan. I think anybody that says Sohan needs to go or he should be gone, I just don't think you... in the era of, can you make a three-point shot for me? I think that Sohan really gets the short end of the stick. I think people would love him way more if it was the old Spurs. Honestly, as soon as the Spurs start to win like consistently and they're like a genuine playoff team, every Spurs fan is going to say Sohan's untouchable. It's just right now where you can obviously see the Spurs need a second option. You can obviously see that sometimes they have lack of scoring. And it makes you frustrated when you look at the stat sheet and you're like, well, this guy, he started and he had 5 points, not really taking into account the crazy amount of defense that he put forward. And he's also not someone that's going to get crazy defensive stats, right? He's going to be in the advanced analytics as far as seeing how effective he is defensively. You're not going to see it from steals and blocks. You're just not going to see it. He's not that type of defender. But he contests every single shot. Every shot is a difficult one. And he has a lot of versatility as far as where you can put him on the court. I feel like a lot of us know that now, though. Yeah, I think people are starting to... Spurs fans are starting to come around a little bit. They were really harsh on Sohan last season. Good God. The ones that say that don't really watch. Yeah, I don't know. CP3 being a non-threat to score is really hurting the team. It kind of, yeah. It seemed like we can only rely on Chris Paul. I would say 80% of the time. We can only rely on Chris Paul to hit shots when it really matters, and he'll hit a couple threes. I probably should have added that I would have rather Castle got more minutes down the stretch too, because Castle didn't even play in overtime, and that's a problem too, right? Like, you needed perimeter defense, or am I tripping? Did he play in overtime? I don't think Castle played in overtime. He didn't play in overtime, did he? Because if you're gonna take Sohan out, you need another defender in there, a perimeter defender. I guess I just look at this team, guys, and the reason why I get frustrated with stuff like this is because you don't really have an excuse not to have him out there. Castle offense isn't trustable right now. No, it's not. It's not. But it's not like, I mean, gosh, I don't want to be that guy, man, but is Chris Paul's? He can't shoot yet, but I mean, is Chris Paul's? I mean, it's plenty of players on this team that can't shoot threes, or you can't rely on them to shoot outside shots. I can't rely on Zach Collins. I can't rely on Chris Paul. I can't rely on Steph Castle. I can't rely on Trey Jones, really. Trey Jones missed a wide open three, and that would have been an important three at that moment. Beautiful. We weren't getting many that looked that good, and he missed it. Can't rely on Keldon. You can rely on him more than the others, I'm sure. Yeah, I agree with that, but like, Vassell's shooting has been super rough recently. Well, Vassell, I'm not going to add him into the mix because I think that he is a shooter. He's just struggling right now. I don't know. I think you could have played Castle. You needed more defense. You needed a play. You needed something to happen. You needed to play. And they just did whatever they wanted in overtime, basically. Yeah. That's all I really have to say about this game. I know this is probably a pretty negative video, but CP3 can't shoot anymore. Yeah. We'll be fine, though. We'll be fine. Like I said, there was nothing where I'm like, oh, my God, why didn't we show any effort? Spurs showed effort. They played hard. It's just the lineups at the end. I was just like, oh, my God. Yeah. Anyways, good stuff. Good stuff. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this segment.